Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's your boy Dragon Master coming at you. Welcome back once again to the dark side of the Dragon's Den. As promised in the last video, this is my for hire deck profile. Like I said in the last video, you are going to question why I'm running certain cards. I'm sure you guys have already spotted some of the cards I'm running in the deck. You're probably questioning it. You're also probably questioning quantities of certain cards as well. So, without any further ado here, let's jump right on into this and show you guys the profile. So, starting off, of course, I have 3 Raphael. Pretty standard for any for hire deck. It allows you to basically mill through your deck, add a card to your hand, shuffle the rest back in, or I think it's actually add them to the bottom in any order. Let me double check on that. Yeah, it's shuffle the rest back into the deck. Okay. Sorry, I had a brain fart there for a second. Plus, whenever a monster effect is activated on the opponent's side of the field, I can discard a for hire monster to negate the activation. So, it's good draw power for the deck. It's also good effect negation power as well. And, I mean, yeah, it's a pretty much staple run 3. I only run 1 Wiz in this deck. As you guys can see, I run 2 other for hire monsters. Wiz, I've seen issues with it at 2, and I know most of the for hire decks typically run 2. I've seen a few issues with it at 2 in this deck because, quite frankly, there's times where I just don't want to see this card, and if I run 2, I see it more often than I want to. I do like the fact that it gives you an additional 500 life points. Whoop, moving my mouse. I do like the fact that it gives you that additional 500 life points per for hire monster on the field with a different name except for this card. And I like the fact that it's a way to negate spell and trap card effects as well. Needless to say, I don't use Wiz very often for that effect. You're going to see why here as soon as we get to our trap cards. And our extra deck for that matter. Yes, the side deck. And yes, the side deck is piss poor, but I haven't really determined what all cards I want to throw into the side deck yet. After that, I run a copy of Dinah, and this is what's been getting me because I read the effects of Dinah, and I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce the first part of this motherfucker's name. I call it Maverick, because that's just easier. But I read both of their effects, and I don't understand why they're not being played. You know, first off, if this card is special summoned, you can banish cards from your opponent's graveyard up to the number for hire monsters you control with different names. What I have noticed is this is the only for hire monster. I don't know if the text was changed around for the actual card itself, but at least on YGO Pro, I have noticed this is the only one that doesn't have that condition except for this card. Again, I could be wrong. It could be different in the game itself, but regardless, or in the actual card game itself, regardless, even if it did have that condition, it's still a good way to banish very problematic cards in your opponent's deck. I'm sorry, in your opponent's graveyard that can be an issue further down the road. Like Invoked, for example. Not that you're ever really going to get to use it against an Invoked deck, but it's still there just in case. And then to further that, it's also... I like cards with this effect because they remind me of the spell card Rare Gold Armor. If you people don't know what Rare Gold Armor is, look it up. Because, you know, once per turn, monsters the opponent controls cannot target for hire monsters you control for attacks except for this card, which I think is actually very good considering the fact that a lot of the for hire monsters are actually pretty weak and very easy to get over. But you don't have, there's not a lot of decks in the game right now that can very easily get over a card that has 2,500 attack points. And to me, that just makes a whole, to me, it just makes a whole lot of sense just based off of the first part of its effect to run this card to get rid of problematic cards your opponent has, especially if you're able to get into the late game. Those cards can be a real pain in the dick. Then we have Maverick for Hire. What I like about this card is it's a reverse of Wiz. Because instead of Wiz giving you 500 points for every for hire monster on the field with a different name, this takes away 500 points from your opponent for each for hire monster you control with a different name, except, of course, itself. Along with that, this card, much like Wiz and Raphael, where Raphael does monster effects, Wiz does spell and trap, this one does card effects in general. Again, it's a decent one to have out. 2,400 defense points, so it's not going to be too easy to get over. And just me personally, for the burning effect itself, it helps really limit what your opponent can play. Because, I mean, let's face it, we see people playing, 3 Solemn Strike, a Solemn Warning, Solemn Judgment, Red Reboot, for example. So, by dwindling down their life points, you might not be limiting the cards they can play very much. Like, obviously, they're still going to be able to play cards like Red Reboot, like Solemn Judgment, but they're going to question whether or not they want to play cards like Solemn Warning, Solemn Strike, Soul Charge, because Soul Charge is still very popular. And for the decks that are running it right now, cards like Imperial Order as well, based on its effect. So it's going to really help limit what cards your opponent can play, what cards they want to play, and really make them think about, do I really want to play this? I've been down to 300 life points through Red Reboot, and I'm like, okay, Red Reboot can help me protect my monsters against trap cards. It's a necessary evil. Moving forward, though. So, again, pretty stable for the deck. 3 Bravo, 3 Seal, 3 Beat. I've seen decks run 2 Helmer. I run 3. You guys all know what these cards do. 2 Recon and 2 Donpa. And like I said in the last video, I do run Morphing Jar just in case. Trust me, it took a lot for me to get this deck down to a 40-card fucking deck. A lot of testing. Moving forward, I run 2 copies of Mayhem for Hire. I know a lot of people run 3. I run 2. I've actually found 3 can be a bit cloggy because there's times where I've drawn into 2 Mayhem, but not 2 Mayhem, then we'll say another couple odd cards, but not really see a lot of for hire monsters. So I took out a copy of Mayhem. Another card I threw in here, I did throw in the Flying Fortress. Say what you want about this card. Say what you want about this card. I don't care, for one reason. First off, you don't have to go to your draw phase. You can opt out of your normal draw phase and add 1 for hire monster from your deck to your hand. Now, I know there's quite a few occasions out there where that can be a little iffy to do, so you don't have what you need in your hand, this, that, and the other thing. And you might want to draw. Here's my problem, because I've come into a situation like that. For me personally, if I'm in a situation where I don't have anything in my hand to really do too much, but I know that by getting one for hire monster from my deck into my hand will help me out a ton. I'm going for the for hire monster. Fuck my draw phase, I want the for hire monster. Now, along with that, if you control 5 or more for hire monsters with different names, you can send this card from the field to the graveyard, destroy all cards your opponent has on the field. However, they don't take damage for the rest of the turn. What I like about that is it's a board nuke. As far as your opponent's side of the field is, it's essentially a for hire version of Raigeki. Now, I don't go into using that effect too often because I'm too busy setting up a board that my opponent just can't get over. But it is there just in case I do want to use it. Plus, again, opt out of your main draw phase and add a for hire monster to your hand. Can't beat that. I do run 2 terraforming as well. That way I can get into this. Sometimes I see terraforming before I see fortress. Sometimes it's the other way around. It all depends on really the luck of the draw or the heart of the cards, whatever you want to call it. 1 soul charge, 1 monster reborn, and 1 card destruction. Again, say what you want, but if you're in a position to where, just like with Morphing Jar, if you're in a position to where you have a hand you can't do a lot with, play card destruction. Yes, both players have to redraw hands, but you're bettering your chances to be able to do something. And even then, if you play card destruction and you get a brand new hand you can't do a lot with, but you have Morphing Jar, play Morphing Jar. You know, you'll get 5 cards. It's an automatic +2 at that point. Moving on to the trap cards. The Deep Grave. I got a copy of this card from one of the, Cybernetic Horizon booster packs that I got from the Bethel Park tournament. I know this is a very slow revival trap card, but at the same time, it's actually a very good one because you don't, unlike Call of the Haunted, where you can obviously activate it on your opponent's turn to help protect your life points. In most cases, especially with the way I have my for hire deck built, you've already got a pretty decent board established, and basically you just want to set up a combo to where you can, tell your opponent, fuck you, with both middle fingers. Deep Grave allows you to do that, because you target 1 monster in either player's graveyard. During your next standby phase, you special summon it from the graveyard. So, it's, like I said, it's a slow revival trap card, but it's a trap card that has actually saved my ass on quite a few occasions. I do run a copy of Imperial Order. This card is designed to help me combat decks like Sky Striker, Trickstar, Goki. Yes, it does hinder my deck a little bit, because as you can see, it's mostly spell cards. However, if I'm able to establish my board just with my for hire monsters, I'm not worried about playing Imperial Order and really just telling my opponent, fuck you. And then, of course, help out with further spell cards, but also trap cards and monsters. I do run a copy of Solemn Judgment, a single copy of Solemn Strike. And the reason I only run 1 copy of Solemn Strike, even though it helps with special summoning, I run 3 copies of Red Reboot. More often than not, I usually have to use my Solemn Strike or even my Judgment on trap cards. And I hate doing that shit, which is also, and this one also does spells, but I hate doing that shit, which is why I started running Imperial Order and 3 copies of Red Reboot. I know you have to pay half your life points to activate each one from your hand, but honestly, and I want to thank my friend Krakenex for turning me onto this card, because it's literally a pretty fucking good card. It's saved my ass in many duels many times, including against Altergeist. Onto the extra deck. I run Dante. Why run Dante? Because of its effect. While it does gain 500 attack and defense points, attack points for every card sent to the graveyard by its effect. It's a good way to mill through your deck, whether it be 1 card, 2 cards, or 3 cards. And ultimately, the goal of this deck is mill through, get what I need, set up the combos. I also run a copy of number 51, Finisher the Strong Arm, mainly because of its ability to not be destroyed by battle. Plus, at the end of the damage step, if this card battles, I can detach 1 overlay unit, place 1 counter on this card, has a max of 3. At the end of the battle phase, if this card battled and has 3 counters, you can destroy all cards your opponent has. So it's another nuking effect. Plain and simple. I do run Bagooska. I know there's easy ways around Bagooska, especially in Link format. However, a lot of Link summoning requires you to be able to use your monster effects. If you can't use those monster effects to add more cards to your hand, special summon, whatever, then it kind of stops you. Now, of course, there's a bit of an issue with this card against Sky Strikers and the Crusadia decks. But nonetheless, going up against decks like Goki, for example, and even Altergeist and Trickstar, very effective card. I also run a copy of number 27. I know you're asking why 27. I don't really use it for its ability to get rid of, an overlay unit, and, the card can't be destroyed by battle or card effect. I use it because of its first effect, which is at the end of the battle step. If this card destroyed any opposing monsters by battle, I can special summon a rank 10 rank 10 or higher machine monster from my extra deck. And you're going to see, I'm pretty sure you guys have already eyeballed it, but you're going to see here shortly exactly what card I run. Of course, I do run number 39 and Utopia and Utopia Ray, because I run Utopia Lightning. This is the reason why I run number 27, mostly for its burning ability. Again, keep the opponent at bay in all ways, shape, and form. That's the way this deck was designed. That's the way this deck operates. And between what I have in my main deck, what's in the extra deck, that's exactly what it does. You guys know what Lightning does. I do run a copy of Saryuja, along with a copy of Borreload, and 3 copies of Falgo. Falgo, I'll tell you what. For anyone out there running the For Hire deck, if you're not running 2 or 3 copies of this card in your extra deck, you're a fucking idiot. This card, it's more draw power for the deck. You can automatically special summon a For Hire monster from your deck to the graveyard in defense position, which, the minute it's special summoned, which can help you further go into more combos, which is often how I end up getting out Saryuja and Borreload, just saying. Plus, whenever an opponent's card is destroyed while this card's on the field, you can draw 1 card. On top of that, if you have 2 or 3? If you have 3 or more For Hire monsters on the field with different names, when that card's destroyed, instead of just drawing 1 card, you're drawing 3 cards, which you can either go into another combo at the end of the battle phase or save it for the next turn. So that's it for the main deck and the extra deck, guys. As far as the side deck goes, 3 copies of Royal Decree and a copy of Ledger of the Ledgerman. I do like Ledger. I think it's a bit slow for this deck, or really for any deck. But I like the fact that you're able to, first off, mill 3 cards straight off the top of your deck, banish them, you get them back in 3 turns. I know there's ways around that. I think one of them's Pyro Clock of Destiny, maybe. Something like that, I'm not real sure. So there are, of course, ways to get those into your hand quicker. but it's more there for semi-support reasons, I guess. One thing you will notice, there's not really any spell cards in the deck for draw power. I was running like my friend because I initially based this deck off of his profile. I was initially running 2 copies of Draw Muscle, but I found that it was clunking up more often than not with that. So this is my For Hire deck profile, guys. As always, like and subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments down below about what you think about it. I know this video's going over 20 minutes. I do apologize for that. As always, hit that notification bell if you want to be kept up to date with all my videos. Excuse me. And let me know what decks you want to see me work on. Like I said in the last video, I'll willingly work with any deck out there, especially if it's a dragon deck. I love dragon decks. Or any decks out there that incorporate dragon-type monsters. So until next time, guys, this is Dragon Master signing out. Peace.
Nightmare walking, psycho